And I want to go into our discussion topic for today, fanboyism in technology. And you're seeing this much more right now in various venues, depending on where you're looking at. And there was a recent instance that really prompted me to wanting to talk about this, because I am following quite a tech YouTube channels in various niches, and there was now a YouTuber that specialized actually on Mac content, and especially also with older Mac content, also repairability and so on. And he reviewed the Mac Studio quite heavily, and he actually took a PC and compared it to a Mac Studio. And the last video, which somehow triggered quite a few people, was comparing the 16-inch MacBook Pro with the M1 Max to a creator laptop from MSI with Intel 12th Gen and NVIDIA RTX 3000 graphics. And the rants some people posted there in the comments that were, let's just say not that nice. And I think now that we're getting back in a time where you're seeing this competition between brands like Intel and AMD and Nvidia and Intel. When we now go to the graphics space, Intel is coming up with their own dedicated GPUs, and this comes up much more than it has in the past, because AMD was for a long time the underdog. Intel was the mainstream for CPUs, and the same was for GPUs. And yeah, Apple was and is its own niche, and has been for a long time, up until it became more compatible thanks to the adoption of Intel processors back in 2006. That changed quite a bit the dynamics, and also made Apple much more comparable to PCs. And with the ARM transition, Apple now is going back to the roots, so to speak. So they are now not conforming to the norm of personal computing anymore. And that brings advantages and disadvantages. And in the particular reviews, this YouTuber, which I'm not intentionally going to name, made excellent points, because Apple is dedicating their hardware for their basically core user base who are using their machines and their software, because Apple has their vertical integration, and that's what they're best at, what they're good at, and that's where those machines actually excel. And of course, in regards to battery life, and the problem here is, for some people, you can bring up whatever arguments you want, but you have to see everything from the perspective of what the device is intended to be used for. And we are getting much more into this product design thinking right now. as I said earlier, there will be now more custom engineered chips for smartphones. In an earlier episode, we talked about AMD acquiring Xilinx and also creating new, even for consumers, more products that are also more tailored to certain things because you can add FPGAs to them. Of course, FPGAs are more versatile than the fixed ASICs and circuits that are part, for example, of the Apple processors. But the things that these FPGAs can do, they have to be programmed for that. That has to be created. And it's not really all comparable one by one anymore. And a lot of people don't understand that yet. That understanding will come at some point, but at the moment, a lot of people are just still comparing raw numbers and focusing also on the wrong details. And I think we all in the tech community, we have to be mindful of that development, and we have to all be part of the group of people who make other people aware of this change that technology is in right now. So everything got more and more general purpose in the 2000s and the 2010s, and now we are moving back to purpose-built devices. And this is a probably a natural cycle, because you have developments where specialized hardware is just better in than with general purpose hardware, until at some point performance of the general purpose hardware catches up with the purpose-built hardware, making the purpose-built hardware obsolete again, and you basically have that cycle. We have seen that in the past, and it will continue. And basically, the competition that is resulting due to that, that we are seeing right now with the whole competition between Intel and AMD, because they're closer speed-wise. On the CPU side, you have the same thing with AMD and NVIDIA, and perhaps with Intel now joins the fray. With GPUs, you have this overall also with Apple, with total power and energy consumption and so on. And yeah, this competitiveness overall is a very, very good thing for us consumers in the end, because competition drives innovation, and also competition keeps prices in check. So yes, we will have faster development cycles of technology again. Like when I think back at the early 2000s, I was upgrading my computer back in the day every year or every 1.5 years. Nowadays, you can have your machine, even if you're gaming, live for 3 to 5 years, depending on how many AAA titles with all the latest bling you want to be playing. And software, especially game development, has not yet catched up. And that might change now that this week also the Unreal Engine 5 finally released, so that might change. But yeah, it's more like in the professional sector where you see especially the fine grade optimizations, and in the mobile sector where you see those optimizations hit most. And yeah, basically flaming someone who is basically explaining the diversity of brands and products, and discussing that one product may be better for one thing than the other one, um, that is not helpful. And you had to deal with stuff like that in communities back in the day, when I think to the early 2000s, where you were in forums and you had the Intel and the AMD fanboys, and you had the Nvidia fanboys, and the ATI fanboys, because at that time the Radeon graphics portion was not yet part of AMD, it was still ATI at the time. And you had threads that were really called flame wars. And now you have people who are basically doing the same, like those people back in the day in forum threads. You're doing that are doing that as part of interactions with creators. And yeah, would hope that people would be a bit more mindful. And I think it's a responsibility of us all in the community to basically steer those people into the right direction, and make them aware that it's not the creator's fault, that the situation is what it is, but it's a natural progression. And I think that this diversity and these specific use cases will actually get more and more in the upcoming years.